What's up, guys? So today, or tonight rather, we're going to break down a recently declassified DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency, FOIA, dated January 16th, 2019. And this was filed originally by a guy named Steven Aftergood. And you can follow him on Twitter here. It doesn't look like he posts a lot under this particular channel, but he has another one, FAS Scientists. This is the Federation of American Scientists, and it's a nonpartisan policy institute providing the public and policymakers with evidence-based scientific analysis. So this is a very interesting and very crucial and important document with a lot of interesting information, and it just shows you who it was. You can see by who it was also CC'd on this, that a lot of really high-level people also have been briefed or given access to the same information. But I just wanted to go over it and break it all down for you here tonight, so that we can really get into this. So, anyways, we're going to go through the list. This is really cool. It's got 38 a list of 38 papers that were funded, or studies that were funded by the Defense Intelligence Agency's Advanced Aerial Threat Identification Program. That's that whole thing that Lou Elizondo came out from the Pentagon saying that he was involved in, a couple other whistleblowers who teamed up with DeLong and everything, and it's all came out that they released a whole bunch of really fake stuff. That one video was a party balloon, a bunch of like old recycled UFO videos, that Nimitz video, and it was just like a lot of that was debunked, and it almost like looks like that whole thing was designed. They did like a whole WikiLeaks thing with it. They hacked the Podesta emails, which showed like that Tom DeLong was basically linked in with the whole Podesta camp, and they hired him as this kind of head man to head off this whole that whole thing that went down to the Stars Academy, and has gone nowhere essentially, and has really just been, I don't know, it's been misleading people. My personal opinion is that that was disinformation, an organized disinformation campaign. But here we have actually for the first time some access to the real scientific programs that were connected to that Advanced Aerial Threat Identification Program, the real program that the Pentagon was engaged in to study advanced aerial threats, or UFOs, and these are very interesting, and I want to break them down for you, because this is kind of this takes everything to a whole another level that these other people really don't ever take it to. First off, I just want to say that I have done a lot of research into UFOs and other cases and stuff. I believe Roswell. I believe that we recovered something. And we recovered technology for invisibility. We recovered technology for stuff that we didn't understand at the time. We're just coming of age to understand. I think it's locked away inside black programs where no one alive today has really had access, or really at least unrestricted access. I think we have pieces and artifacts definitely in our possession right now that came from extraterrestrial spacecraft. I firmly believe this. And when I go over this evidence with you of the kind of scientific studies that the Defense Intelligence Agency was engaged in for part of this program, it's going to really blow people's minds and really corroborate this this whole concept right now. So let's go over all this stuff that they have been essentially researching for. All right, number one, right on the list, inertial electrostatic confinement fusion. All right, this is Dr. George Miley of the University of Illinois. And Dr. Miley, he's a cold fusion guy. He's an expert in calorimetry and heat measurement, and also helium, and a lot of experiments involving helium gas. I've read a couple of his papers related to cold fusion, and I'm familiar with some of his work. So this whole thing is directly related to energy systems and possible research into how they power these things, how they're actually powered. Crystallic fusion or lattice-assisted nuclear reaction, where they have these crystals where they can basically put deuterium or hydrogen inside, and you get it to fuse into helium, and that fusion produces energy. Done a lot of videos and talked about cold fusion and stuff, but it's just interesting that the Pentagon was also funding research into these things, looking into it, and this is why. Advanced nuclear propulsion for manned deep space missions. Again, nuclear powered propulsion, as well as nuclear power to power the craft through this type of fusion. And there's also, it mentions it later on towards the end. If you go to I hate jumping around, but they listed it in a weird order. So atomic, number 30, aneutronic fusion propulsion. So they mention this paper by Dr. Coolbreath of the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and aneutronic fusion is right here. I have the page on. It's a form of fusion power in which neutrons carry no more than 1% of the total released energy. It's basically, in a lot of fusion reactions, you have high energy neutrons, which release during the fusion reaction, and those can create sustainable chain reactions, and they can also cause problems. There's also gammas and stuff that are released in a typical, a normal reaction would release a gamma, and there's an absence of those gammas in a lot of cold fusion experiments. There's ideas that the photon is actually emitted as a phonon or a lattice vibration, and it's absorbed by the crystal lattice rather than dissipated into the vacuum as electromagnetic energy. So it's interesting stuff. They're looking into these types of fusion and what we're learning about fusion and the fusion process now as they're getting further along. It's interesting that there's more. That the DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, seems a lot more interested in cold fusion. There's not really a lot of mentions or any mentions of them researching, like, tokamak reactors or hot fusion, the typical hot fusion stuff that's really mainstream in a lot of circles in fusion and within physics right now. It's interesting that the only studies cited in this report were related to cold fusion, which is something that I've been covering and talking about a lot. So it's interesting. I just wanted to say, keep on going on this. Pulsed high power microwave technology, Dr. James Wells, JW Enterprises. That's Project Skyvault. All right. Have a page on Project Skyvault on my website under anti-gravity technologies, where I go over all that stuff on Project Skyvault and show the video. I showed a video of this before. I don't have the video right here, but they basically take a disk and they pulse microwaves at it to get it to ionize the air under it, and the ionized air bursts create bursts of lift that essentially they can power, that they can float this disk or send it up in the air. That they sent it up like 30 feet with this laser, but after it gets up to a certain point, it's hard to keep it aligned and keep the laser pointed at the disk and keep it right. They had problems with that, so it's interesting that was cited, but I don't think that's that's really what the it's interesting that's cited, because it's not what they would use on it, or maybe, I don't know. It's not really what I believe is the most advanced technology. We'll get into that later here as we go along. But space access, this is an interesting one, and I can't find anything really on it. I found this guy from Paul, and again, he's got a page on him. He's got a video here, and some of this is new stuff to me. Some of these guys I'm familiar with and have read some of their papers and stuff, but some of these other papers I haven't been able to find because some of them are still classified. I'm going to go through and see which ones I can find and what I can find on them, but or what I think is the important ones anyway. But again, this one seems interesting because it's talking about access, space access. And that could mean, it's very ambiguous. It could mean a lot of things. So, advanced space propulsion based on vacuum space-time metric engineering, and that's Dr. Hal Puthoff of Earth Tech International. And the Earth Tech International, they appear on this quite a bit, as some of my viewers probably know already. Hal Puthoff and Dr. Eric Davis were both. Eric Davis is the guy. They're both of them worked for Earth Tech, but both of them are also teamed up with the To the Stars Academy. And it's interesting that they've given like very limited, tight-lipped interviews with on all those, and like he never really goes into like a lot of detail on all this stuff. And of course, some of its product is classified. These products that they're paid, basically these guys are paid by the Defense Intelligence Agency to do this type of research and write these reports. And man, that just gets me interested, because what if I started my own company and just like wrote reports like this and kept them, made people pay me for them? Because I could write some pretty interesting stuff that I have never talked about. I could definitely. I'm almost wondering if I should start my own business doing that, so I can get out of construction and start using my brain instead of my physical ability. But invisibility cloaking, this is really interesting stuff. Biosensors and biomems, I skipped over that. I didn't mean to. I haven't looked into that either. Actually, really much of that. I don't know what these MEMS are. Biosensors, this is just ways of, I believe it's ways of detecting biological organisms. And they have a lot of stuff like that. I know they've talked about the things out in Area 51 where they have these surveillance type devices that can tell the difference between a jackrabbit, a coyote, and a person, and will set off alarms. And so that they have biosensors, and they've done a lot of biosensor technology and stuff. But that, I don't know if that's related, how far that goes, or what that entails. Whether it's like, a tricorder, A tricorder could be the thing they had from Star Trek that you wave over someone's body and it tells you what's wrong with them. It's like a doctor's diagnostic tool. I don't know how far what that's about, or how deep it goes. Invisibility cloaking, and this Dr. Ulf Leonhardt. I posted a link to this guy's TEDx talk from December 2014. It's in the link in the description below, and people can go check that out. It's interesting. It's only got 7,500 views, despite being 5 years old. So this is really stuff that needs to really be viewed and really be shared and really be put out there a lot more. Nobody's talking about any of this stuff. Of course, it's kind of boring, and I'm sorry if I'm boring anyone, but maybe you guys should go watch Blue Chicken Cult videos or something if you're bored here, because this is like on a different level. This is real classified information when you start getting into discussions on the science and stuff. And it's interesting, which gets me to this next point. These two, there's some of these, this one and another one. Eric Davis of Earth Tech, again, earthtech.org. Where's the earthtech.org? So here's the team from earthtech.org. This is Eric Davis, and this is Hal Puthoff, and they have a whole other team of Hal Puthoff's sons, also a part of the company. But there's also a couple other guys, like I guess, that are affiliated with them that aren't on here and stuff too. I forget their names offhand. But back to this traversable wormhole, stargates, and negative energy, and that one, and another one by Eric Davis. Eric Davis has written a lot of interesting papers, and not all of those are still classified. You can find a lot of them, but I don't know. It was interesting because I was doing research for this, and I searched for this Eric Davis wormhole paper, and I was searching for this stuff, and I found where's the page I had it? It was Exopolitics. This was at exopolitics.org, and it was basically this guy, that guy Corey Goode again. Apparently someone in his camp or someone connected to him got the hold of these papers or sent them to him, and then he put them out. He put them out there. I think they might even be public, but I know they're public now. But he made up this whole story, and I have yet to confirm it with Eric Davis or this. But it doesn't seem legit, because he's basically taken this whole wormhole and Stargate and portal technology stuff that these Eric Davis writes theoretical papers. He's not like doing actual research into building these things. Okay, he writes like he's a theoretical physicist, and you can watch a bunch of interviews with him and read his papers that you can find, and these ones too. None of these were real programs that they actually built or did anything with. But Corey Goode's trying to use this as proof for his story, that's saying that, oh well, this is proof that I worked on these programs and confirmation of it. Dude, it's not. All right, and I hate to break it to the people that are trying to pass this off, and including Michael Saylor, who gets a lot of stuff wrong. It's not proof of that. These were research studies on theoretics of like what's coming in the next 100 years or so with technology and some of the ideas for how to produce it and stuff. And it's not, none of it was actually, do I believe it has ever been produced, as far as the technology, as the type of materials that you need, and the material science that you need to produce these types of things, and the energies are really far advanced and beyond what I think we have technical capabilities to produce, or what I say, infrastructure. Like you look at a company like Boeing that produces airplanes, and they have to basically source their whole supply chain for how they build those airplanes. And if you had a company like Boeing, or say Secret Space Program X, for example, they would have to have a supply chain for these types of metamaterials and quasicrystals and these exotic isotopes and metals and stuff. And they would have to have like a real complete supply chain in order to even think about being able to produce or build that kind of stuff. So it's kind of, people take this stuff, this is all really theoretical, and it's on the edge, it's on the cutting edge. This is us peering at their technology and glimpsing at it through different programs that they've sent like samples out to Los Alamos and had them research, and then they have the paperwork from that, and they have one of these guys, they give him clearance to look at that, and he can look at that, and then he reads that whole report and paperwork on this piece of a shard of a skin of the craft that crashed at Roswell or whatever, and they look at that and they analyze it with their X-ray spectrometers and X-ray scatter diffractometers, and they measure and analyze what that material is, and they found things like quasicrystals, metamaterials. They've discovered these types of technologies, I believe, through analyzing these types of things, and then it's bridging the gap. We're not there yet. Okay, everyone thinks that this is a secret space program that already has all this stuff and that they're so advanced. No, I don't believe that. I think that we're bridging the gap right now. You can see by the, if we were that far advanced, there'd be a lot different list of research studies and stuff on this. This is just starting to bridge the gap, and I just wanted to, sorry for that side diversion about that, but I just figured it should be addressed, and it had to be addressed. So, high-frequency gravitational wave communications. That's, again, they did research into, high-speed communications, quantum entanglement, and also gravitational wave communications. I haven't read that paper or any of Robert Baker's stuff, but I've read a lot of stuff about, theoretical ideas for how to do this, and in a lot of magazines and other articles online. So I'm familiar with the concept, and it's interesting, because if they did, there was a type of communication protocol that they used. I mean, of course, if it was gravity wave communication, that would be interceptable, but quantum entanglement communication, if it's possible, it would not be interceptable. Role of superconductors in gravity research. That's interesting, that the Pentagon's looking at, superconductors in gravity research, and this Hathaway guy is kind of interesting. He's kind of out there, but he's kind of he's not it is just a. I mean, this is what you find on this is the DIA's weird desk, but he'd be an interesting guy to talk to, and I'm sure he's got some interesting experiments that he's done. And this is the kind of experiments that I was even talking about doing to replicate some of these things and look into it. And it's interesting. I wonder how far that goes and how deep that's gone. But again, superconductors and gravity research, there's a ton of stuff out there. Boeing Project GRASP, the Boeing opened a whole, started a whole study into, if you type in Project GRASP Boeing, you can see this. It was 2002, and they wanted to basically replicate that Podkletnov experiment with the, the weight and the rotating superconductor to see if it really reduced the weight and stuff. And yeah, that's interesting. But that was back in 2002, and Boeing claimed that it didn't work, and they closed the program, and that was the end of it, and it's just a bunch of bunk. And it was just like, yeah, that was, don't talk about that anymore. Shh, shh. But here we have in 2019, 17 years later, and they're still investigating it and looking into it. Why? I wonder why. Anyways, anti-gravity for aerospace applications. Another Eric Davis paper. Eric Davis, again, interesting stuff. Definitely read his stuff. Definitely read his papers. He's got some interesting ideas and stuff. Field effects on biological tissues. That's an interesting one. Anyone who's read, hold up, where is it? Unconventional Flying Objects. There it is, by Paul Hill. It's up on my case. I won't grab it right now. But in that book, he talks about a lot of, Air Force and military cases of UFO contacts and some of these various effects, the persistent radiation, burn marks, and also the radiation effects on humans or military personnel who have been exposed to or been close to UFOs, operating saucers or whatever you want to call them. It's not really a UFO if you know it's not, if you can see it right in front of you, or I guess it's whatever. In any case, apparently they're doing some biological tests to see the biological effects of these field effects, what they do on biological tissues. So I assume they're using lab rats and mice and not people like me and you, even though I feel like I have a freaking beam pointed at my head sometimes. Anyways, positron aerospace propulsion. This is cool. Dr. Gerald Smith and Positronics Research. Positronics Research LLC. And this is just a seed funder website talking about the thing, but they're also on LinkedIn. Oh, I'm not logged into LinkedIn. By the way, I woke up the other morning, and right after I had those videos, and my computer was wiped. I spent all day yesterday and the day before really trying to fix it. It was completely. It had this weird screen that popped up about a BNC boot error and stuff, and I don't know what happened. I was doing stuff last night, and it started getting slow. And I felt like someone was like hacking into my computer or something, but I don't know. I still feel like it's kind of weird that my brand new computer hasn't had any problems, and then right as I start doing this kind of stuff, it starts acting up and having problems again. So I'm logged out all my stuff. I got to go back and log into everything, and I got to reinstall all my programs on here. I really only have a couple things, including my streaming software running for me right now. But Positronics Research. This is interesting because anyone who's followed the whole Hubbard Brothers thing with me and all the discussions that we had with Ken Griggs about anti-gravity and warp drive propulsion using antimatter. Here's the DIA. Here's the government's UFO program investigating positron, antimatter, warp drive, propulsion technology. Just the same stuff I've been talking about, man. It's like great when you have this kind of confirmation. When something like this comes out from the government, and you're like, all this shit that I've been researching for like 15 years and I've been talking about for 15 years, and this is like the creme de la creme still in 2019 of what they're researching and what they're getting into. It's good. It feels good to have that kind of confirmation that my intuition was right, and I knew about this stuff long before a lot of people did. Concepts for extracting energy from the quantum vacuum. That's another Earth Tech Eric Davis paper about, more ideas for extracting quantum vacuum energy. I believe it was like the Casimir effect and ways to make machines that could harness it and stuff. But again, I gotta get all these papers. I want to really go through each one of them. I'm gonna read them all. I'm gonna go and read each one and make like a video on each one and break all this stuff down, because each one could really I could go into in a lot more detail and stuff than I almost want to get into here. I just wanted to. I'm only at 16. We're not even halfway through the list, guys, and I'm like 30 minutes in. So go grab a drink, grab a beer, go take a piss, and we're gonna be here. Biomaterials. Biomaterials. So there's a lot of interesting stuff on here about this Biomaterials by Bruce Brown. Bruce Toe, and then he had there was another thing on here about programmable matter. Yeah. Applications and aerospace applications of programmable matter. Now this is interesting. I haven't read these papers yet, but I've actually thought about these same ideas of building like you could build like a biosuit if you could hack DNA to the point where you could really like just engineer any kind of organism you want that could do like literally anything. You could engineer a biological exoskeleton, this biological spacesuit essentially. That would produce its own oxygen through photosynthesis and all kinds of other things, man. There's some. I thought about this shit like 15 years ago when I was in college, man. Like it's crazy that they're I wonder if they've done any of these research studies into stuff like this, like because I had this whole idea for a whole biosuit, like a whole spacesuit that you could build out of like a biological organism, and like how it would all work with like photosynthesis and these the whole nervous system that could heat it and keep it cooled, or keep temperature regulation and everything. Anyways. Yeah, self-assembly, also materials, self-assembly for space materials, so like programmable materials that like essentially like work on their own, like I don't need to get into it. People can Google that stuff if they don't know what I'm talking about, and people that do know what I'm talking about already, have a better vision in their head than I could describe to them. So warp drive, dark energy, and the manipulation of extra dimensions. Now this is like the really weird one. Dr. R. Ubosi. I didn't even see this one on here when I was putting my list together before. So is this guy the Icarus Interstellar? Yeah, that's the dude from Icarus. It's interesting, yeah. They got, so Icarus Interstellar and Tau Zero Foundation are both on here doing research for these guys. Which Tau Zero is another NASA guy that's really into warp drive technologies and all the different types of advanced propulsion technologies. Tau Zero Foundation. You can look up Tau Zero Foundation and see their website. I'm just gonna find it for you so that you got the right one. So Tau Zero Foundation, it's tauzero.aero. pioneering interstellar flight, and this is their site. They have a lot of interesting stuff on here. I would check them out and try to find that paper and read it as well. I'm going to do a video on all these individually and get really into detail on each one, the important ones anyway, not all of them. But technological approaches to controlling external devices in the absence of limited limb-operated interfaces. Okay, so this is they're doing a lot of research on mind control, not mind control, but thought, controlling things with your thoughts, or, these things that can sense your brains or ways, brain patterns, and you can figure out your own brain patterns and train it to like work with this machine to execute commands, and so that it basically it sees an image of your head. So they're looking into this idea, because imagine like you could look at something. There's another one on here about they did a study on how many different flying objects, how many different drones you could control simultaneously. One person can control. So they're looking in ways that one person can control armies of drones, and that's very interesting. Whether it be through a mind device, like a device a helmet that sits on your head and can read your thoughts or whatever, or whether it be like through joysticks and stuff. They're looking into all these different ways, like not just joysticks. They're looking, and can like remote controls, but like ways to do it with your thoughts. That's pretty freaking scary and crazy, but interesting, because there's a lot of talk about people that say that these machines are, controlled by your mind. There's no like controls or anything inside the machine. It's all done through the mind, which is really interesting. Yeah, that slaughter bots thing too. You got to think about like them building armies of these things, like friggin' Protoss carriers, where you're flying around in your Protoss carrier, and you just send all your drones out and just wipe out like hordes of enemy troops or innocent civilians or what have you. It's pretty cool until they use it against you. Exactly. Anyways, materials for advanced aerospace platforms. Now, that's interesting. Aerospace platforms. Now, what I've been told, what Ed Fouché, former Area 51 employee Ed Fouché, I remember telling me, anytime you see the word platforms mentioned with regards to aerospace, they're usually talking about anti-gravity devices, like anti-gravity platforms, like the TR-3B, basically. He said that anytime he heard about the TR-3B or it was referred to, it was called a platform, or the platform. That was that's pretty interesting. I haven't read this paper. I would love to find it. I think the product is classified. You might be able to still find these papers, or again, I might contact these professors too, trying to get an interview, get more information. And this would be a great conversation to have with some of these guys, man. 22, metallic glasses. This was interesting. Dr. T. Hufnagel of Johns Hopkins University. Now, where's the thing? Metallic glasses. Very interesting stuff. So, it's possible to make glass out of metal. And he's got what's this here? In the video, identical ball bearings are dropped into a metallic glass left and a piece of stainless steel right. The high strength and low stiffness of the glass alloy the ball bearing to bounce for a long time, while in the stainless steel, the low strength causes the plastic deformation, which quickly damps out the kinetic energy of the ball bearing. Oh, so they're talking about the behavior of these glasses and their physical properties. I don't know if that's like their kinetic properties. I was thinking more their electrical properties, electromagnetic properties, because metallic glasses are essentially metamaterials. It's essentially you're taking metal and you're arranging it and based on its structure to create a material that is invisible or penetrable to a certain frequencies of light. So metallic glasses are structure. Okay, so they're non-crystalline, but they're disordered. Yeah, so these are quasi-crystals. They're not metamaterials. I take that back. These are disordered quasi-crystals. They're quasi-crystals. Amorphous metals, which are novel engineering alloys, and a lot of trimetallic alloys. A lot of quasi-crystals are formed in trimetallic alloys. Interesting. So these, you know, a metamaterial would be a crystal cell where all the crystals are the same, and it creates through its structure this type of material. But a quasi-crystal is different. Yeah, that's where they're random and are disordered. So this is really interesting stuff, because what they're able to do with these technologies, this is the stuff I'm telling you. This came from frickin' Roswell. This came from extraterrestrials. This came from, they have this stuff sitting in labs and sitting down in Area 51 in a hangar somewhere. And this stuff came from a UFO. And that's how they learned about it, man. And that's how they came, like, I swear, it's going to come out. It will come out. When the smoke all clears, that will come out. It will be declassified probably in 2047. 100 years after Roswell or something, man. It's Superman crystal, guy. Yeah, it's some crazy stuff. These comments, guys. I get too distracted trying to like read you, bro. Anyways, aerospace applications of programmable matter. Yeah, I talked a little bit about that. Programmable matter. I'd like to read that and see some of his ideas too. But spintronics. Talked about that. That's spin transport electronics. It's like an electron transport phenomenon. They're basically teleporting electrons. It's a low-level teleportation kind of technology. So that's interesting, because there's a lot of talk about, you know, portals and teleporters and stuff like that. Well, that's basically the low-level research into that. Quantum teleportation. Space communication implications of quantum entanglement and non-locality. So yeah, he's talking again about using quantum entanglement for communication, for, you know, space communication, and what the implications of non-locality are. You know, where two things become entangled. You know, two photons or two atoms are entangled, and one will always be spin up, the other one will always be spin down. So you'll automatically know the position and orientation of the other one if you measure one. And there's a lot of research being done into how to use that for communications, and also encryption and stuff like that. Aneutronic fusion propulsion. Again, I talked a little bit about that before. It's fusion, but it's like without the neutrons, and they're looking into ways to do it, any kind of way to do it, and a lot of it's related to cold fusion. Cockpits in the era of breakthrough flight. I don't know, that's probably about just advanced cockpits and controls and stuff. Again, what I was talking about with the advanced, you know, mind controllers or whatever, a way to control the thing with your mind, essentially. I wonder if that's anything related to that. Probably is. Cognitive limits on simultaneous control of multiple unmanned spacecraft. That's the one I was talking about. With it's basically like you're on a Protoss carrier, and how many different vehicles can you control and coordinate at the same time? And I guess, you know, like those StarCraft players, man, those guys that like can, you know, engage a whole army and move all that stuff. You know, like if there was some way to do that in real time as the controller, then yeah, you could control a lot. I mean, people control armies in you know, video games, so I don't see why it wouldn't be possible on the battlefield. Detection and high resolution tracking of vehicles at hypersonic velocities. Well, So they're looking for ways to track and take high resolution imaging. You know, things that going that fast, it's hard to like photograph them and keep on them. So there's a lot of research that's done into, you know, detecting and also tracking those kind of aircraft. And a lot of them, I as I said in previous videos, a lot of it is drones now. A lot of it is going towards drones. And in the past 10, 15 years, massive amounts of money have been spent on drones. And I'm surprised that I don't see more stuff about drones and research into drones on this list. Laser Lightcraft Nano Satellites. I think that's more Project Skyvolt or something similar, but again, I have not read this paper. I will have to find that and read it and do a breakdown on each one of these. Magnetohydrodynamics, air-breathing propulsion and power for aerospace applications. So this is basically Thomas Townsend Brown effect, I would assume, ion wind or you know, magnetohydrodynamics. It's basically air-breathing propulsion. It uses air and moving air using ion wind or asymmetric capacitors or whatever you want to call it. But it's basically, that's what that is about, that paper. Quantum computing and utilizing organic molecules in automation technology. Very interesting stuff. Again, that's something like you could go on and on, man. That's like a whole nother realm. Quantum tomography of negative energy states in the vacuum. That's an interesting one because tomography is like dropping things down to a 2D plane from a 3D plane. And I had an image of it here, but I don't know where it went. I got so much stuff on. Oh, here it is. So tomography, right? It's essentially like imaging or you know, two-dimensional mapping, you know, two-dimensional cross-sectional mappings and stuff. And let me talk about why they'd be interested in that. And this was all that stuff I was been talking about with the warp drive technology and using antimatter on the surface of a you know, this Dirac hole surfaces that I've talked so much about with Hubbard Brothers. The Dirac hole surfaces is essentially, that surface is a quantum tomography. It's a, that's what that negative and the negative energy states in the vacuum. That's essential. That's the essence of what Dr. Davis is talking about there, man. And it's just mind-blowing that we were so spot on with this stuff. Again, ultracapacitors as energy and power storage devices. Yes, so ultracapacitor. What's an ultracapacitor? It's basically, you know, this stretching the limits of material science. You have a regular capacitor. It's made with a dielectric. So you find the most dielectric, or you build a custom material with that super ultra dielectric, and you can use that to build an ultra capacitor. And again, it's not just energy, power, and storage devices. That whole Mark McCandish alien reproduction vehicle, the ARV, was essentially the whole base of that craft, and the drawings and the diagrams of it, the whole base of that whole thing was a giant ultra capacitor. It is a massive ultra capacitor, and it's used for this again, the that Biefeld-Brown effect, and something that was discovered back in the 20s, and it's been still like classified, tons of classified research into it still to this day. Negative mass propulsion. And that's another thing. They're trying to look for negative masses, and you know, a lot of tests is with the antimatter. They're doing a lot of physics research trying to figure out if antimatter has a negative mass, if antimatter has the same mass, the same gravitational attraction, or if it's if it's a repulsion instead, which could be used for propulsion. So very interesting stuff. Number 37, state-of-the-art and evolution of high-energy laser. Well, that's the last two, 37 and 38, which I thought was interesting that those are at the bottom of the list and added on. It's like, it's almost like this whole list was compiled like, I don't know. It's hard to say, man. But anyways, this guy, Dr. J. Albertine, he'd be the one to interview to really get like a good sense. This guy in this paper, if we can get this paper, this would be a good one to use for the Judy Wood stuff. Because as I've argued, the Judy Wood, they don't have anything like that with the energetic capabilities or the power plant or the energy to do what was required. Even if they did have a laser that big that could have done something like that. Again, I have pointed out the reasons why it couldn't have been a laser or any electromagnetic type weapon or particle beam type weapon, because there's no sparks or arcs or anything like that observed. The whole thing would have lit up like, you put a fork in a microwave, metal in a microwave, the same kind of idea. Microwave laser technology, maser weapons. These things were developed. They developed the ICBM interceptors for the Star Wars defense program under Reagan. So they have lasers with some pretty serious capability and some pretty high energy, real powerful stuff. Again, they don't think they have the energy supply, the energy power, or the type of laser that would be required to do like the things that the Judy Wood freaking cult members claim. And but this guy would be a great person to interview to really get like or this paper and everything would be a good one to read for. I'm sure he goes into all this because it's the state of the art and evolution of high energy laser weapons and direct. And if you look up this guy's stuff, John Albertine, he's from Maryland, I believe. He's in his like 70s, and he's done a bunch of. He went back to the Reagan. He's the Reagan guy for the Star Wars program and stuff. So, and this one, right, is interesting because this product, this one, there's two versions of this. There's one that's classified and it's for official use only, and then there's another classified one which is has a no foreign intelligence label on it, and that means that it's sensitive to other countries, namely Russia. I believe it would be because they're the ones with the most ICBMs, So, what did I miss? Recap, dude. I'm about to end this thing. I ain't doing no more. All right, so just to wrap it up, a quick recap of what we did. All right, so this was the Defense Intelligence Agency FOIA filed by Mr. Steven Aftergood of the Federation of American Scientists. He received this back on January 16th, 2019. Well, that's when they stamped it anyway. He might have got it later, but it appeared on the internet just recently. It's had 20K views so far. A lot of people have checked this out. But more people should be checking this out and talking about this. This is a key. This gives me hope, man, and it also makes me want to file a lot of FOIAs myself. I got to start getting into doing that. I've never filed one, never done that before. I really have gotten some of the best information I've ever encountered and gotten has been through FOIAs that other people have filed and gotten information back. So I really think that that's like a huge part of the process of disclosure anyway. Anyone talking about doing disclosure or fighting for disclosure or engaging in disclosure, if you're not filing FOIAs, then I guess you're not doing disclosure, man. Unless you're, reading and reporting on the FOIAs that have already been filed and are out there and stuff. You're kind of being, an analyst, which is essentially what I am. But in any case, so yeah, all the details of how they did this, just to prove that they did it. Well, the proof's right there, but the details, I like the details because the details are, they tell you more of the story about what's really going on. And what's going on is the government UFO program at the Pentagon has paid for scientific studies into cold fusion technologies, metamaterial technologies, superconductor anti-gravity, and antimatter anti-gravity technologies, and also quasi-crystals and metamaterial invisibility and cloaking technologies, as well as some material science technologies. And that's pretty much what I can get into on that. And now I'm going to take questions in the feed if anyone has any, and maybe we'll open this up for a little discussion. If people want, they can add what they have to say. So, weather as a force multiplier, owning the weather by 2025, U.S. Air Force, 1996. .pdf. Bro, I think I've been targeted. My channel is like literally the most shadow banned friggin' channel on YouTube. I swear. Like, I go on other, like, I try to find my video. I try to find my videos to share with people sometimes, and I can't even find them. Like, you know, I try to, like, it's crazy, dude. Like, and then, you know, you get this message from YouTube. And by the way, I got that before before I went Alex Jones on the fucking internet. All right. They already demonetized my channel. They didn't demonetize my channel in response to that video. You know. But Bill Cooper, man. So yeah, Richie from Boston, man, he hooked me up, and I gotta give a shout out to that dude, because like, I was about to throw in the towel and call it quits, and he like brought me like 3,000 new subscribers, introduced a whole new crowd of people to my stuff, and got me literally like $800. I've raised like, I raised probably like 400 or 500 before that, and then I raised another $800 since he hooked me up. So now I got enough money to pay for my server costs, and I actually got people coming out of the woodwork. I got a guy who's going to host my site for me for free, so I can get rid of GoDaddy, and I don't have to give them that money. And I'm going to use that money instead on buying some lab equipment and some, you know, simple stuff, so we can start doing some little home experiments here or something. You know, right in my little office here, and start messing around with this stuff. I want to get more time to attend conferences, to go to these conferences where these guys are and interview these kinds of people, and get more active in this stuff. Because man, this stuff is so fascinating. We're like right fucking there, man. We are on the verge of, you know, making a breakthrough to where our technology is going to be at their level. We're gonna have the technology. You know, within 50 years, man, we're gonna have the technology. Less than that, I would say less than that. It's gonna be. I almost like, I don't want to make crazy predictions because I hate to be wrong. Like, I would say, I hate to be wrong, man. Like, if we really pulled together and had the right things happen, it could be within like 10, 20 years. Even faster if they've already pulled that stuff together and have it sitting inside some black program somewhere, and they've already spent the money and have the research, if we could get at it. But now we need to be laser focused with these FOIAs and this, what we're looking for. Now we know exactly what we're looking for. We know where to find it. We know, you know, the duck. It quacks like a duck. It walks like a duck. And we know what we're looking for. We know how to duck hunt now. So people want to get this information out and really push for disclosure. This is the kind of stuff we need to start being focused on, start talking about all the time, and start awakening ourselves and others to. Again, the technical aspects and the physics, I don't expect everyone to know and grasp, especially not right away. But it's definitely, if you want to enlighten yourself and really learn some stuff that's really going to help this world and really going to push things forward to that next level, this is where you need to be putting your time in and putting our focus. Because, you know, if any one of these things on here, any one of those on that list becomes a fruitful, bears fruit. Yeah, if any one of these things bears any kind of fruit, dude, we're like just a huge step closer to getting off this fucking planet and returning to the stars. So, anyways, dude, it's been way too long, man. I go nuts, like, with all the stuff. It weighs on you over time when you have, like, knowledge of all the corruption, all the murder and lies that that have been spread out there. And like with regards to 9/11, when you go on, coming up on 20 years soon, and it just blows my mind that I thought for sure back in like 2004, 2005, the movement was so strong and that we were going to prevail and we were going to bring justice, and it was going to be a complete collapse and crush of the system, and it was just all going to fall on its head and blow up because it was so much evidence and it was so, you know, blatantly obvious to the people that were, you know, doing the research and coming up with this stuff, and you know, reading books like Crossing the Rubicon by Mike Rupert, and even now, years later, with even better books like Another 19 by Kevin Ryan, and all the great research Kevin Ryan's done on his website, Dig Within. Dig Within. That one of the best 9/11 website, hands down the best 9/11 website on the internet, and the most factual, damning information to the official story that's out there of anything. Is digwithin.net and Kevin Ryan's blog. But it just blows my mind that we're so close, but like we're so far away. And I just want to see this technology come out, and I want to see these people brought to justice. It's just so long. It's just been so long, and what happened instead is all the disinformation took over. It took over back in 2006, 2007, when the truth movement was getting like just way too out of control and strong. Like, you know, we had those protests in the middle of, you know, Times Square on New Year's Eve with, you know, Alex Jones photobombing with the InfoWars photobombing Geraldo and all that stuff that was going on, man. It was like, I thought like for sure we were gonna like break through the silence and the mainstream blackout, but all that came out was just more disinformation and all the debunking, all the fake debunking, all that just awful lies came out from National Geographic, Popular Mechanics, and then all these countless other shills that just came out of the woodwork to be like, you know, I'm promoting, you know, like, I'm helping to cover up a mass murder because I believe in my government, and I believe we can trust the government, and that they would never lie to us to, you know, to take oil from other countries, or to go invade other countries for oil or natural resources, or all that, you know, minerals that we got out of Afghanistan, or all the opium that we are growing in the poppy fields that's funding the black drug market, which provides so much illicit cash to our banks, which are already depleted because of the fractional reserve system and the money lending policies. And it's just crazy, bro. I've been feeling crazy. I've been feeling a lot of mixed emotions, just because it's like I feel like helpless, because having like just not like the financial situation I've been in with that, and then having to pay for that server and all that stuff. But people come out of the woodwork to help me, and that's awesome. We're going to get a new host for my site. I'm going to migrate it over. We're going to get a whole new website up. I might even have some help with some people that are going to help me redo my website and take all the stuff about all the old HTML and replace it with like a new age, a new format, you know, a more interactive site. That would be awesome. I'd love to be able to do that. I can't even get onto my site or do anything now because I'm like on limited access with this computer right now, because I just rebooted it and it's a new install of Windows. And I don't know. It's just it's been crazy, guys. I'm gonna take it off. I'm gonna end this. It's almost 60 minutes on the dot, and you know, this was a good day, man. This is a good day in the truth movement, and I really feel like a new there's a new steam, man. I feel like there's a new, I don't know what I call it, like a new, I feel a new push, a new kick, some new motivation, I guess. I don't know why I can't find the words. I'm tired. I was meaning to do this like an hour ago, 2 hours ago, but kid wouldn't go to bed. So we're really close, guys. It's freaking, it's scary how close we are, and we need to really push to get this information out, because it's going to unlock the stars for us, man. It's going to unlock the heavens. And I don't know if there's, it makes me wonder, man, is there aliens? What if there's aliens here right now, like trying to prevent us from doing this? And that's like all the resistance that I'm like, I really think that if they were really trying to prevent us, though, I'd see a lot more a lot more organized and powerful resistance of some kind, you know. Like, I really don't know if I believe that whole theory that you know, that we're like the human zoo, and that they're trying to keep us in the zoo. You know, I really think that I think that they're here and they're watching us and they want us to succeed, but they're testing us to make sure we're ready, and they're throwing everything they got at us to really test us. And I'm sure they know about 9/11 and other stuff like that too, man. And it's just crazy that that prime directive, they can't do nothing to come down and help. We have to help ourselves. But at the same time, we were just so misled by these powers that be, that know all the right strings to pull and all the right ways to mislead people and push out disinformation. It's kind of interesting. But anyways, I'm going to get some rest. I'm going to do a bunch more research into all these papers and read up whatever I can find. And the real interesting stuff I'm going to condense and make another video on. And including the one I probably should make on just Hal Puthoff and Eric Davis. And, you know, I've talked about these guys before and stuff, but I've actually reached out to both of them and tried to get interviews, but they don't. They're as tight-lipped as they come, man. They're not going to talk about this stuff. They get paid to write this stuff. They get paid by the DoD and the Pentagon to write this kind of stuff and give them that information. They're not just going to give it away to us for free. So, but that's all right, because I'm just as smart as these fucks, and I'll think it up myself if they don't give it to me, and we'll release it anyways. And there's plenty of other people that are just as smart as them too in my audience that share information with me and send me stuff, and that I communicate with. And I don't know, things are getting close now. We might even be pulling together a bunch of people from my audience and forming our own lab and forming our own laboratories to do our own research and our own work. So that might be a reality soon. So they might have some competition very soon. Maybe we can fund it by writing some, you know, interesting research papers and seeing if the DoD or the Pentagon will pay us for them. I don't even think I would want to accept money from the fucking Pentagon. It'd be like a death sentence to my channel. It'd be like, they'd probably do it just so they could be like, look, he's paid off. He's a shill. Anyways, guys, it's been fun. Thanks for all the support, and I'm glad that we can glad that I can at least get this information out without you know, nothing more than a shadow ban, you know, and a couple minor threats. And so thanks for watching, guys. Have a good night, and don't worry, Richie from Boston, you're the man, and we're gonna kick this in the ass and release some really good stuff. So get ready. The best is yet to come.